Hello and welcome to another Big Finish review. In this Big Finish review, I'll be looking at Order of the Daleks, the first story part of the second sort of constant trilogy, which contains Order of the Daleks, Absolute Power and Quicksilver. And this is the first time Constance faces the Daleks. So without further ado, let's look how this story is presented. Then we'll actually go into my thoughts on this story. So for the cover art, we've got this nice church background, which is obviously for the Black Petal Brotherhood. We've got Constance there looking quite scared. Then we've got the Sixth Doctor there, which I believe is a still from Revelation of the Daleks. And of course, we've got the gorgeous stained glass Dalek with some fire there and a bit more church background there. And we've got the Doctor Who banner there and the spine. And for the back, so if you want to know what this story is about, do feel free to pause to know what this story is about. We've got the cast list and the running time being 120 now for the leaflet,
minutes.
So if we open it up, we have advertisement for the next instalment in the monthly range series, which is Absolute Power. We've got advertisement for Doctor Who magazine and production credits, and of course we have the reversible cover if you want to flip it around. And the disc art is exactly the same for both discs. So what do I think of Order of the Daleks? Now, Order of the Daleks had a hard job, as the previous Dalek story in the monthly range was a roaring success, with that story being We Are the Daleks, which if you haven't checked out, please do, as it is a brilliant story with the 7th Doctor and Mel. So Order of the Daleks really did have to stand out, and it definitely stands out with the stained glass Dalek on the cover. But before this was revealed as a Dalek story, it was simply titled Order. When I heard that, I thought this story would very much be a political story, and I thought that would be great for Constance, as she's a headstrong character and fights for what she believes in. And the 6th Doctor being stubborn and arrogant, it would just work rather well. But it turns out it was a Dalek story. Now, I feel if they titled it Order of the Daleks straight away, I feel it would lose the impact it had, and I think we would all facepalm going, no, not another Dalek story, crying out loud, no. But when they announced the updated title and the cover, I think we were all distracted by the lovely shiny Daleks. So Mike Tucker had a hard job of making the Daleks his own, and I feel he certainly delivers on that front and comes up with a fresh, new, exciting idea for the Daleks, which is incredible when you think about it. You know, you think of how many stories the Daleks have been in, whether it be on screen, books, audios, comics. There's been a ton, so a massive congratulations for Mike Tucker for coming up with a fresh, new, exciting idea for the Daleks. Episode 1 has a very much an atmospheric start of a traditional mystery, you know, what lies beneath, and how can this signal be broadcast with it being set on this medieval planet. And we get some great world building with us knowing about the wildlife, and the sound design really does enhance that with the world what Mike Tucker has created for you. And not only that, we get some great gruesome imagery towards the end of part 1, which will be more explored in episode 2. Overall, it's a very good setup to the story, but it can feel a bit slow to start off with, but once it finally finds its gear, it does start to tick nicely, and the world building really does help paint that picture for you, which will become quite helpful in the latter half of the story. And also it helps with sort of laying down the foundations with what is the Black Petal, and of course it's got this very traditional Doctor Who cliffhanger, which you probably can predict. Part 2 for me is when the story really gets kicking, as this is when the action really comes into play. As I said, this is when the gruesome idea is explained and explored. We're putting a new meaning behind donating blood. Now mix that with some dark humour, it's a perfect balance, and us seeing the Daleks in their new casing and how they control the casings and what makes these Daleks very unique. And no, it's not their appearance, and I have to say, Part 2's cliffhanger is one of those jaw-dropping ones, with a very exciting twist of events and giving the story a whole new energy level. And Part 2's cliffhanger I just adore. It's one of those great moments where you think, oh god, I did not see that coming. I just love Part 2's cliffhanger. Part 3 goes back to the world building with us exploring the landscape of the planet and starts to answer some of those mysteries that have been building up, such as the Black Petal, what turned out to be quite a dark idea. And I do love how the Doctor outwits the Daleks in Part 3. And Constance, I feel, is very much the character what pushes the plot forward within the latter half of the story. Part 4 follows the Mike Tucker tradition for me. If you know what I think of Dust Breeding's last part, then you might know where I'm gonna go with this. But I found Part 4 rather predictable with some of the twists it was trying to show. But it still had some nice dark bits in there. but I just didn't enjoy it. I just found the twist rather predictable, and that's its only sort of major knockback. I found it a bit predictable towards the end, and the tiniest bit of padding in part 1. So those are the only sort of negatives I can come up with for this story, with it being being predictable in episode 4 and a bit of padding in episode 1. Now on to characters, starting off with the Doctor, played by Colin Baker. If you've listened to the 6th Doctor on Big Finish, then you sort of know what you're gonna get. Mike Tucker nails the 6th Doctor, and there's a line what really does sum up the 6th Doctor within this story with his bark is worse than his bite. Colin is very much a ball of energy within the story, with him being very besotted by the planet and quite cheery until he knows the Daleks are involved, and when he finds out the Daleks are involved and he just flips, it's just great, with him becoming quite concerned and desperate and authoritative and taking charge of a situation to stop, and also getting quite frustrated how events are unfolding, and also Constance not listening to him. And of course you get the traditional 6th Doctor arrogance, and I just love the brilliant chemistry he has with a character called Pendel, with the Doctor being quite sarky to Pendel, and it's just quite nice and very humorous when he's around the Daleks, which is quite cool. So Colin is fantastic as ever. Constance, played by Miranda Rayson. Can I just say how brilliant Constance is as a companion, and what a team her and the 6th Doctor are? Yeah, good, that's out of the way. Mike Tucker again writes Constance brilliantly, with her very much like the 6th Doctor, taking charge of certain situations, being headstrong, authoritative and very decisive, and does keep the plot kicking along nicely. And I love when she first sees a Dalek, and her naivety about the Daleks is brilliant. And I love as the story progresses and the more she finds out about the Daleks, and she becomes more troubled by it. And I just love that, from the naivety to being quite concerned and worried about, my god, if this plan actually works, everything will end. And I just love that, how as the story progresses we see Constance sort of journey about finding out the Daleks is brilliant. And Miranda Rayson just really does a fantastic job bringing Constance to life, and just her and the 6th Doctor, and they spark off each other beautifully, and it's just a fantastic TARDIS team, the 6th Doctor and Constance. Pendel, played by John Sutherland. He's very much the comic relief of the story, and personally he is a real standout for me, with him trying to be serious, but he just comes across as a bumbling fool. He's very much over the top, a bit like a pantomime character, but I just love it. And he's basically a teacher, and he's very much sort of worried about interfering with the society, which leads to some great bits between the Doctor and Pendel, with Pendel just becoming a coward. And to me, he's definitely the best supporting character within this story. I just love how John Sutherland just encapsulated the character, and it's just beautiful, fantastic performance, and it's definitely the standout character for me within this story. Astra, played by Olivia Halliner, basically Pendel's student. She's a lot more knowledgeable than Pendel, and does show him up, which is quite funny and does lead to some nice funny scenes. She's very much more logical, she's quick thinking, and just works great with Constance, and she has some great moments in episode 3 with Constance. Her and Constance together are an absolute team, and I just love that in the latter half when those two brains come together, because it just leads to a great sort of duo. Love that. Nick Briggs, who obviously plays the Daleks, and the character called the Abbot. Now the Daleks themselves, if you love them in Power of the Daleks, then you will love them in this, with them being quite sly and devious, and a bit like the Daleks in Death of the Daleks, them being quite resourceful. And also we get to see a new take on the Daleks with this new exciting idea, and also this very unique appearance. But what makes these Dalek mutants different, and it does remind me very much of the Apocalypse element in that regard, and Briggs manages to make the Daleks sound very 80s and sounding similar to how they sounded in Resurrection of the Daleks. And the sound design for these Daleks is brilliant, as you can hear like the cogs whirring away, and when they move they just churn along. And the other part Briggs plays, the Abbot, is a really brilliant contrast to the Daleks themselves, but he does have this nice hidden agenda with being quite dominant and sinister. Overall, Briggs did a fantastic job bringing both of these to life. Now the last character I will mention is Bosworth, played by Robbie Stevens. Now Bosworth is very much the underdog, a wise man, is very much the voice of reason, and you do genuinely feel sorry for him, and he does have some real powerful moments in episode 4, and Robbie Stevens plays him wonderfully. and he has a very soothing voice, so it suited the character beautifully. So what are my concluding thoughts on Order of the Daleks? Now, Order of the Daleks, for me, it definitely lived up to the hype, with Mike Tucker telling very much a one-off story for the Daleks, and how he explains why the Daleks appear like they are in this story is genius, and the whole backstory for them, why these Dalek mutants are so special, is just fantastic. And I feel like this story can only be done once, especially the way they appear. I feel like you'd lose the whole wow factor. So for Mike Tucker to make the Daleks exciting again deserves a lot of praise, because I just love the Daleks within this story. It's probably one of the best Dalek stories Big Finish have done, and the ideas behind it certainly pays off. Now, I will say, if you haven't experienced the Sixth Doctor and Constant story, then this is probably a perfect place to start, as the cast is superb, the story has great twists and some nice bits, and just dark humour all around, and just great action, and the story is just brilliant. But it does have some negatives, and that being the pacing in episode 1 is a bit off, and it being quite predictable in episode 4. But other than that, it is a solid story with some great original ideas, and that is just fantastic. Now, my original rating for this story was an 8 out of 10, but since re-listening to this for the review, I feel like it deserves a 9 out of 10. So I'm going to give Order of the Daleks a 9 out of 10. A superb release, do check it out, because this to me has made the Daleks exciting again, and I didn't think that would be possible. So thank you, Mike Tucker, for making the Daleks fantastic again, because honestly, you do think the Daleks have got this one in the bag. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this review. Hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next video, whatever that will be. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. So thank you very much, and goodbye.